Hi, my name is Evelina Jang, and I'm here today with UberMedia, the leader in mobile location data. I'm the Director of Analytics and Data Solutions, and I work with clients to figure out the best data solutions for their business needs and questions. In tourism, surveys are traditionally used to learn more about the visitors to a destination. While surveys can give you a lot of information about the visitors to a location, they can be very time-consuming and expensive. Well, that's where mobile location data comes in. Today I have here a story about San Diego County, and I want to show you the power of mobile location data by not only telling you information about tourists to a destination, but also about the locals that go to the destination. Makes for a really interesting comparative study. Now, in order to start our study, we have to identify the visitors to the location and whether they're a tourist or a local. That starts with drawing a geofence around the location you're interested in looking at. So what we have here on the right is a geofence of San Diego County. What we do here is we say, okay, all the devices that we see within San Diego County, we want to know if they have a common evening location in San Diego County. And if they do, then we will mark them as a local. They're a resident of that county. In order to identify tourists, we do a little more with this geofence. So we have here airports, interstates, and military bases also with geofences around it. And what we do is we actually cut out these locations from the San Diego County geofence so that we are not seeing only people who are exclusively seen at airports, interstates, or military bases. So this way we can take out people who are just driving through San Diego County and not necessarily visiting any destination. We could take out people who just have a layover in San Diego County at the airport, so they don't actually leave the airport. And then with military bases, we can take out people who are just working in San Diego County at the military bases. They're not actually visiting any of the tourist destinations. So once we've done all this work to identify the tourists and the locals, we can dive into some locations that they're seen at. For this study, we looked at Balboa Park and San Diego Zoo, two very popular San Diego tourist destinations. With the identification of them as locals and tourists, we're able to say, okay, everybody that's seen at Balboa Park, tell me if they're a tourist or if they're a local. And interestingly enough, we see at Balboa Park, 57% are tourists and 42% are local. So it seems like there's a pretty even split of visitors that are tourists and locals to Balboa Park. With San Diego Zoo, though, we see a bit of a different picture. With San Diego Zoo, we see that 69% are tourists and only 30% are locals. As I thought more about these findings, I was thinking, well, Balboa Park has a lot more community events. It's very appealing to tourists to come visit because it is a beautiful destination. But locals are also brought to Balboa Park because they have lots of family events or they have special concerts that are going on. So I wasn't too surprised to see that split. With San Diego Zoo, it seems like it's more of a destination or like a destination that you go to. It's like one family trip that you do a year if you're local. And then if you're a tourist, San Diego Zoo is definitely a place you want to go to when you visit San Diego. So what other information can you find out about people who go to these points of interest? Well, mobile location data can tell you where they're coming from. So for tourists, we broke it down by metro areas. And we said, what are the top metro areas to San Diego, of tourists to San Diego Zoo? We see that, unsurprisingly, Los Angeles, which is pretty much right next door, is the top metro area that is going to the San Diego Zoo. We then see San Francisco And then New York actually falls into place after. Very big metropolitan city that has people, that is usually a big tourist, a big metro area that destinations draw from. Now with locals, we can look at zip code level data or census block group level data. And so what we did with locals is we broke it down by zip codes, and we also identified the area these zip codes fall into. And we saw that a lot of the people visiting San Diego Zoo live in the downtown area. They're also from Hillcrest and North Park areas. This information can be really useful for San Diego Zoo if they're looking to do some local marketing. They can start targeting downtown area. They can start targeting the Hillcrest area because those are the big draws. Or they can see that City Heights is on the bottom of the list here at number 5. And they can say, all right, I want to draw more people from City Heights. So let's start targeting that area for the San Diego Zoo. Now, we looked at what mobile location data can tell you about specific locations and the visitors to the locations. But I wanted to take a wider lens here with the data. So those locals and tourists that we identified earlier, well, we're able to see all the locations that these locals and tourists visit. So in this map here, I mapped out all the destinations that these tourists were seeing during the visit to San Diego. We see the highest density of visits from tourists cluster around places like downtown San Diego, UCSD, and then with more touristy destinations, we see Balboa Park, La Jolla Cave, and interestingly, the El Cajon casinos as also a destination for San Diego tourists. If you zoom in another level, we also are able to show you precisely where they're seen at the location. So within San Diego, you can see where the most popular places within downtown San Diego they're going to, or within Balboa Park they're going to. At La Jolla Cove, you can see that the beach area is very popular for tourists. And that in UC San Diego, there's particular parts of the campus that sees more heat than the other areas. Additionally, we can see here that El Cajon is popular as well as Lakeside. And then there's also this casino up here that's popular with tourists. So you can actually start ranking the top tourist destinations for tourists to the locations with this information. We would aggregate the number of devices that are seen at these locations and be able to rank them. So if we dive in further with locals and look and map out where locals are going when they visit San Diego, we actually see a very different picture. So with tourists, we see that La Jolla Village, SeaWorld, Balboa Park, Del Mar Track and Fairgrounds are popular locations for tourists to visit. But for locals, we see more residential areas being highlighted in the places they go. So we see that the suburban mall is seeing a lot of density, as well as the residential areas. So in addition to telling you information about the origin markets of the visitors to a destination, as well as the top points of interest, mobile location data can allow you to dive deeper into the visitors at the location. This can start with demographic profiles. We can grab the common evening locations of these visitors and be able to draw some information about their demographics. At UberMedia, we use census data, and we provide a weighted average based off of the common evening location devices that are in the census block groups. Now, when we look at the demographic profiles of tourists and locals and how they compare, we can see that there actually isn't very big differences in their income. We see that they're mostly middle income, around 70,000 for locals and 73,000 for tourists. We don't see a big difference in the age of visitors to these locations. But we see that for race, there actually is some contrast here. San Diego has a very big Hispanic community, so I wasn't surprised here to see that there's a higher percentage of Hispanics compared to tourists. And there's a bigger percentage of Hispanics amongst locals than there is for tourists. Mobile location data can also give us insight into the shopping habits of locals and tourists. We do this through our location affinity report, which looks at how likely a customer would or would not visit certain brands in comparison to the average American consumer. What we found in running this location affinity report was that tourists are more active than locals. We saw that tourists are more likely to visit outdoor retailers such as REI, and they're more likely to be seen at fitness centers such as SoulCycle. While tourists are more active, we saw that locals are more likely to visit In-N-Out and have a good bite to eat. It isn't too surprising to see this information because In-N-Out is more available in the West Coast than it is throughout the country. So it isn't too surprising that locals are more likely to visit In-N-Out than a tourist. What we saw with looking specifically at department stores, though, was that there's a contrast in the department stores that they're visiting, specifically with Saks Fifth Avenue. We saw that tourists are more likely to visit a Saks than a local is. So they're more likely to prefer some higher end shopping than locals are in San Diego. Look at all the information mobile location data can give you about visitors to a destination. In a San Diego study, I was able to distinguish the behavioral patterns of locals versus tourists to San Diego County. I was able to give you insights into their origin markets, into their demographics, as well as into their shopping habits. I pulled all this data from Data Explorer and found that I was able to have results for a client within 1 to 2 weeks of pulling the data. This is a lot of time. This is a big difference from doing surveys that can take months long to gather and then another few months to analyze the information. So for more information on this study and how mobile location data can be used for your use case, please visit UberMedia.com.